Hey guys, remember that time George Lucas made a Marvel movie?
What?
Yeah, he actually made a Marvel movie about a Marvel character.
I don't believe it.
Oh, and I don't mean Spider-Man or Captain America or Iron Man. I mean Howard the Duck. Who?
Yeah, well, allow me to explain. Howard the Duck is a Marvel comic character who exists within the Marvel universe and has actually been around since the early 70s. However, the comic is more of a satire, full of parodies. Jump to 1986, only 3 years after George Lucas wrapped up his original Star Wars trilogy, and he produced a live-action movie of Howard the Duck, which starred Leah Thompson coming in straight from her success of Back to the Future, and future star Tim Robbins, and even utilised special effects by highly celebrated effects company Industrial Light and Magic, and was distributed by Universal Pictures, who had previously distributed other big hits such as E.T. and Back to the Future. So with all this talent, what could go wrong? Well, sadly things went wrong. Very, very wrong. As the movie was absolutely panned by audiences and critics alike, as this oddball movie tells the story about a humanoid duck from a parallel duck universe who crash lands in our world, where he sparks up a romance with a local musician. Yeah, and when I say romance, I mean fully intimate and everything. And all while trying to defeat another dimensional monster played by Ferris Bueller's creepy principal. In a movie that not only manages to make it on worst movies of all time lists, but many people consider the movie to be downright inappropriate.
But is this movie really that bad? I mean, after all, it's meant to just be a satire comedy of an oddball, wacky, humanoid duck creature. Well, today we are going to try to find out as we look into 10 things that you may not know about the Howard the Duck movie. Oh, but I wanted to talk about the comic book series. Well, why not both? By the way, who are you and what are you doing in my video? I'm Minty 2, the sequel. Okay, so let's check it out.
Howard!
Undoubtedly, one of Earth's greatest minds here.
Number 10, based on a comic book. Yes, even though it's already been established that Howard the Duck started off as a Marvel comic, he made his first appearance in 1973 in the comic book Adventure into Fear, issue 19, and the smart mouth, wise talking duck must have been a hit with the readers, as the humanoid duck trapped on Earth would go on to be a main character in the Man-Thing series until 1976 when he finally got his own comic book. And since the bad-tempered, joke-delivering duck first appeared in Marvel Comics, we have even seen him do crossovers with other great heroes, such as Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, Ant-Man, and he even joined in on the Infinity War sequel, where he took part in the fight against Thanos.
Wow, given what a big part of the Marvel Universe he is, it's surprising not many people know about him. Well, you're wrong, Minty One. He does have a fan base. He's just not as mainstream as other Marvel characters. He's more of a slapstick character as opposed to a superhero.
Number 9, Disney were not impressed. Not everyone was laughing when the Howard the Duck comic hit the stands, least of all Disney, who thought that the character was a rip-off of their character, Donald Duck. Which I guess you can see blatant similarities. They are both bad-tempered ducks, of which their ill moods are often the source of comedic shenanigans.
Well, yeah, just look at this design. A white feathered duck wearing blue. He totally looks like Donald.
Disney were going to sue Marvel for copyright infringement because the Disney and Marvel alliance hadn't been invented yet. So in order to avoid a lawsuit, changes and redesigns had to be made to the character, namely giving him pants. Yep, a Marvel story where a pair of pants saves the day. Number 8. Howard the Duck is kind of Marvel's first movie. Okay, this is a tricky one to explain, but Howard the Duck, yes, a movie about a talking duck from a parallel dimension, could be argued as being the very first Marvel cinematic attempt. That depends on if you want to count the 1944 Captain American serial. Some people may think that this 1944 rendition of Steve Rogers' Fight Against Evil doesn't count, as when it was released, Marvel was still known as Timely Comics, and it's technically not a movie as it's a serial. But regardless, whether you count Captain America 1944 or not, Howard the Duck represents a stage in Marvel's infancy in the world of cinema, where after a popular batch of TV shows, it was trying to find its cinematic ground. Sadly though, this attempt didn't work, and what came after didn't help much either. But thankfully the 2000s came along and finally Marvel characters were treated with grace and respect, and the rest was history. Number 7. Many people defend the movie. Although the Howard the Duck movie has its critics who claim the movie is downright terrible, with questionable sexual innuendos and general bad humour, not to mention of course its 4 Razzie wins, there are however those who defend the movie and claim that the movie was just misunderstood. A popular argument is that people assumed that it was a kids' movie, where in actual fact it's a grown-up National Lampoon-styled comedy romp. One critic in particular who seems ever ready to defend Howard the Duck is famed British critic Mark Kermode. He insists that although the movie is flawed, it's actually really funny and subversive. He even once said that he interviewed Tim Robbins and brought up the movie, and Robbins basically said the movie was bad because of the duck costume. But Kermode insists it's a movie about a humanoid duck. What do people expect?
So what do I personally think of the movie? Yeah, I think it's bad, but I also do enjoy it for just how bizarre it is.
Yeah, me too.
Number 6. Actors who could have been Howard the Duck. For the theatrical version of Howard the Duck, the character was voiced by Broadway actor Chip Zien, who also appeared in United 93. However, before Zen landed the role, other more well-known comical actors were interested in the part, including Robin Williams, which would have been awesome. I don't know why, but I just love the idea of Howard the Duck having Williams' voice. After all, just look how awesome his work on Aladdin was. Other actors who were considered for voicing the pesky poultry include Martin Short, which I can also see, along with John Cusack, which would have been an interesting choice.
Hey, just imagine if they had Christopher Walken voicing Howard the Duck.
Number 5. Howard the Duck could have been directed by a well-known director. When George Lucas got on board to produce Howard the Duck, his original choice for director was John Landis, who would have actually been ideal for the project, as with films like Animal House and An American Werewolf in London, Landis clearly had the right kind of rude, oddball humour and surreal visual style for the movie. Not to mention the fact that Landis is a very ambitious director who often pushed the limits of his filmmaking. But instead, Landis directed The Three Amigos. So, with Landis not being an option, the movie was directed by Willard Huck, who is best known for working on the screenplays for the Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies. Lucas would go on to say that the movie would have been much more successful had Landis directed it, and would further even say that Landis not directing the movie was the biggest regret of his career. Number 4. Howard's weird merchandise. So Howard the Duck did get some merchandise attached to its cinematic release, be that some very weird merchandise. First up, there is this poster magazine, which was standard for movies back in the day to be released with poster magazines. But then we get the Howard the Duck storybook and audio cassette for the kids. Then of course there was the Howard the Duck video game, developed by Activision and released for the C64. In this game, fans of the movie, which probably wasn't many, can play as Howard the Duck, where Howard has to make his way around an island known as Volcano Island.
Just like the movie, right?
Yeah, it's a worry when even the game's distributor doesn't want a bar of the actual movie.
But the most strangest piece of merchandise associated with the movie is definitely a special number hotline, where fans who just can't wait for the upcoming Howard the Duck movie can call said hotline and listen to voice actor Chip Zen as Howard the Duck actually talk about the upcoming movie. Because who needs action figures, I guess? Number 3. George Lucas's original vision. Originally, producer George Lucas, along with Howard the Duck's writer and director, married couple Willard Huck and Gloria Katz, wanted Howard the Duck to be an animated feature, which in my opinion definitely would have helped the movie, especially on a narrative level, as Howard the Duck is, in a way, one big adult-styled cartoon. However, Universal Pictures, who were distributing the movie, insisted that it be live action, as they were anticipating on Howard the Duck being their big summer movie of 1986. So naturally, the idea of Howard the Duck being a cartoon movie was out the window. Number 2. Howard the Duck caused a resignation. After Howard the Duck's release and very public failure and ridicule, it was clear that fingers were going to be pointed and that some poor soul had to shoulder the blame for this epic failure. After all, the movie only made back $16 million on a $37 million budget, and the talks about how awful the movie was were pretty widespread. Well, it was chairman of the Studio Motion Pictures Group, Frank Price, who took the fall for the box office blunder, as Howard the Duck caused him to resign. Yep, that's right, the Howard the Duck movie actually caused someone to lose their job. Number 1. Howard the Duck lives on. Although Howard the Duck's first cinematic attempt was either misunderstood or awful, depending on how you want to look at it, he still cinematically lives on, as the character is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as he has appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 in brief cameo appearances, and is voiced by Seth Green. It's not clear if we're going to see more of the character, and if he'll develop more, or if he'll even get his own Marvel movie. But regardless, it just brings me joy to know that despite the tough times, Howard the Duck still lives on currently in the highly praised and popular Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well guys, that was my look into Howard the Duck. I say check out the movie, if anything, just to see how strange and bizarre and misguided it is. I think the movie is more unfortunate than it is awful. Yeah, me too. See it for yourself and make up your own mind. By the way, you are one handsome man. Thanks. By the way, your accent sounds terrible. Oh great, even I pick on how my voice sounds.